research center for organic food systems. Happens to be placed in Denmark, but our focus is a bit more global than that. We coordinate and try to increase the volume of quality of organic of research in organic agriculture. And okay. And I think it's important, even though we are meeting here at COP15 in this forum to discuss the problem of the climate change, it's important, especially in terms of agriculture, not to forget that this is not the only criteria for sustainable development, and there are a lot of other issues at stake as well when we talk about the future development of food systems. One is that there is already abundant food insecurity, and that's unfortunately about to increase. And there is already an unsustainable use of natural resources in general, such as the soil, water, biodiversity, and it's been documented in a number of reports, and I have a few of the references here. And the Millennium Ecosystems Assessment clearly pointed out to the fact that biodiversity is as much a problem as the climate change.
Can you hold the microphone closer?
Oh, closer?
Yeah.
Okay. Should I start all over? Okay, I'll just skip that. There is another set of reports, which was the International Assessment of Agricultural Science and Technology for Development, another global effort to look into the availability and the research so far into agricultural technologies, which clearly pointed out that there is a need of a fundamental shift in the way we do research and the development pathways for agriculture. And the main issue for this purpose today is that we need to look into more agro-ecosystems approach, including the biodiversity issues. So from a focus on increased productivity alone to sort of a holistic natural resource management perspective, and the climate adaptation potential there is very important also. But it also brings me to say that if you were to look at agriculture from only the climate mitigation potential and looking into which agriculture system is better in terms of energy productivity, you would probably again go into the trap of looking into productivity alone. And you hear that from some of these big companies that just put on more fertilizer and use GMO varieties with higher yield potential, then we can produce more food with less energy use. Now, organic agriculture has a broader aim. It's a production system that tries to improve the sustainability in terms of soil health, ecosystems, and people, and therefore tries to rely on ecological processes, biodiversity, and nutrient cycling, and soil fertility building has always been at the heart of organic agriculture also historically. And therefore, and in terms of climate, climate change has two advantages. One is that, I think I'll skip this and go to this one. One advantage of building soil fertility using locally available resources in terms of organic matter is that you increase the soil organic matter, you increase the water holding capacity, and therefore the adaptation potential to climate change. So when rain patterns change or water becomes more scarce, or even when water is, like in some areas, you have heavier waterfalls, higher organic matter in the soils improve the water holding capacity, so you'll have water for your crop longer into the dry season. So that's for adaptation. And the other part is that when you build soil organic matter, which is basically carbon, you have carbon sequestration. So there are two aspects working hand in hand, and we have significant documentation from the northern hemisphere in long-term controlled experiments like the dog trial in Switzerland that clearly shows that you can build up soil organic matter with these organic methods to a better extent than in conventional farming. You have the Rodale in the US showing the same. There's a lot of scientific evidence, I won't take your time with that. Just showing that it also works under African conditions, under dry conditions, This is a very degraded and eroded area of northern Ethiopia, eastern Ethiopia, where they set forth to try to reclaim these lands with organic methods, and 10 years later it looks, or even 5 or 7 years later, it looked like this, and today even better, with reforestation and better soil fertility, and so on and so forth. So it clearly does work. And as I said, the other side of this is that when you build organic agricultural systems, you also want to increase the diversity of food crops, including traditional foods, and the diversity sort of on the farm or the landscape level, which again gives more resilience to changes in climate and to other problems. And what has been shown now in a review of a lot of development projects is that compared to, let's say, traditional agricultural yields in Africa, which has not improved a lot over the last 40 to 50 years, these organic methods can actually more than double the yields. And this has now been also acknowledged by the UNEP and the UNCTAD, two UN bodies, in a report that states, and this is quoting the directors of these two bodies, saying that organic agriculture can be more conducive to food security, and it's more likely to be sustainable in the long term. The flip side of this, and I'm going to end, is that especially in some areas of the northern hemisphere where you have intensive agriculture, the yields are relatively low, and we have a big challenge to improve the yields in organic agriculture, but in a sustainable way, improving our knowledge of the ecological processes.